If you are looking for a video that's going to recap every trade that happened in the past 3 days, well, you found the video, so let's get right into it. And to start this video off, we're going to talk about the biggest and craziest deadline move in my opinion, and it was easily Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic going to the Knicks in exchange for Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Ryan Arcidiacono, and 2 future second-round picks. What were the Pistons doing here? I have absolutely no idea, because I guarantee you that they could have gotten at least 1 first-round pick for each of those players in separate deals. So they really got finessed and sold with this trade. On the Knicks side, it is obviously a success as they added depth, elite bench scoring, and elite shooting. There really is no risk in the trade, and that is why I love it, because they got rid of a dude that has not been great and 3 dudes that don't play along with minor draft capital. A+ move for the Knicks, F for the Pistons. This was a swindle. Let's just talk about another Pistons trade, Simone Fontecchio. I absolutely love this for the Pistons. They acquired the talents of a dude that is shooting 39% from 3, and it only costed them Kevin Knox and a second-round pick. Yes, Fontecchio only has 1 year left on his deal, but he is a restricted free agent, and the Pistons will be flexible enough to sign him long-term. So you can take a fly on something with lots of potential and upside. That is exactly what you should be doing if you are Detroit. On the other hand, I have absolutely no clue what Utah was doing here because they're trying to compete, evidently, given how they approached the trade deadline, and they traded away a dude shooting 39% from 3. That fits their team mold for Kevin Knox. Make it make sense. My Phoenix Suns made a trade that I absolutely love. I mean, we could have used a point guard, but hopefully we can sign Kyle Lowry. But we added another great defender in Royce O'Neal who will be perfect for us, and David Roddy, who is just quality depth. I love it. For the Nets, they got 2 players that probably won't get much playing time and 3 second-round picks. Quality package for Royce O'Neal. The Grizzlies got a first-round pick swap along with 2 players that can help them fill a void of injuries for a while. So yeah, this was a weird trade, but I loved it for every team. I mean, some teams could have done better. Mostly looking at the Nets with that statement, but it's not a bad trade at all for any side. The Dennis Schroeder trade to me was kind of confusing because I feel the Raptors could have gotten way more value for a guard that can play on or off the ball while playing elite defense, and the package you get is Spencer Dinwiddie and nothing more. Not really ideal if you're the Raptors. I guess the reason the Raptors did it was to allow the young guys to have lots of freeway without a guy that will take away a lot of shots and time with the ball. But yeah, that's just what you can hope, I guess. And for the Nets, I love this deal because Schroeder fits the mold of this team and can facilitate the offense at an elite level. Even if they don't have a chance to compete this year for a playoff spot, he is a perfect player to have, and I honestly expect him to go off in Brooklyn. My favorite move of the deadline was Patrick Beverley going to Milwaukee. In a trade deadline that a casual fan would call boring, Patrick Beverley proved to be a massive acquisition. Really never thought I'd say those words. He will be the perimeter defender, school threat, and impact the Bucks needed, and he is probably going to come off the bench, but he isn't going to allow someone to drop 40 on his head nightly like the Bucks have been doing all season. He's a great pickup, but Philly, I have absolutely no idea what they were doing here because they were selling and buying at the same time this trade deadline. We'll talk about the Buddy Hield trade in a moment, but when teams do this, it never works out well. So 76ers are big losers in this trade deadline for me. We got another Pistons trade to talk about. I mean, if I was the players on the Pistons getting traded, I would be jumping for joy. But I personally love the Monte Morris trade for Minnesota, as he is a very underrated guard in the league and plays a bench role perfectly as he can facilitate and run an offense. They really didn't need to do anything crazy at this year's deadline besides adding a bench point guard, and that is exactly what they did. And they did it for cheap, only giving up Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a second-round pick. But obviously the Pistons side of it, they get value for a guy that wasn't in a million years going to re-sign in Detroit. So a good trade for both sides. You cannot convince me the Mavericks actually got Daniel Gafford. Like, I love this so much for the Mavs. Not only is Gafford a great role-playing center that they needed, but he has 2 more years left on his contract after this season. Absolute swindle for the Mavs. And the Wizards, y'all continue to lose me with the decisions your front office makes, because I guarantee you that I could have gotten a better package for Gafford in my sleep. But Mavericks absolutely swindled here. But unfortunately for the Mavericks, we got to talk about another trade that I don't like as much. They acquired PJ Washington from the Hornets in exchange for Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and draft capital. I don't really believe that PJ Washington significantly helps the Mavericks, as he is not a great defender and honestly just reminds me of a shorter Christian Wood. that can shoot the ball a little bit better. So, I'm not the biggest fan of this move for Dallas. They also lost Grant Williams, who has a lot of value, Seth Curry, who could have value, and draft capital, which always has value, for a guy that isn't a crazy good fit. I could be wrong, but I don't think the Mavericks won this trade like they did with the Gafford, but I am impressed with what the Hornets did in this deal. This trade honestly has to marinate a little bit before we can give it a true grade, but my grade right now for Dallas is a C-, which might be a little controversial, but I'm just not a fan of it, personally. I love the Kelly Olynyk trade for the Raptors, and it's not because of Kelly Olynyk, it's because of Ochai Abaji. His three-point shooting and ability to defend is going to be very valuable for this Raptors young core. A lineup of Emmanuel Quickley, Ochai Abaji, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl will be very fun to watch for the remainder of the season. However, they did give up a first-round pick and a guy that you could have probably flipped for a first-round pick in Otto Porter Jr. to get Ochai and Olynyk, so the only problem I have for the Raptors is the amount of value they gave up. For the Jazz, I like it because you didn't really play Ochai anyways, and you flipped him and Olynyk for Otto Porter Jr. in a first, essentially, which is a good return. Obviously, the Boston Celtics needed frontcourt depth to come off the bench, and that is exactly what they got in Xavier Tillman, who is a workhorse and will have a high motor off the bench. Love the addition for Boston, and I like the return for Memphis, who are evidently smart in selling. Probably could have got a little more value, but I don't hate it at all. Great trade for both sides. The Buddy Hield trade in my eyes is very uninteresting because of the fact Embiid is going to be out for a while. I thought the 76ers needed a guy that can create his own shot to help take pressure off Maxine Harris in Embiid's absence. Unfortunately, Buddy Hield cannot necessarily do that, but he will be a huge piece going forward, assuming Embiid can come back. But getting a player of Hield's caliber with two not-so-great players and 3 second-round picks is kind of a steal if he re-signs in the offseason. For the Pacers, though, I love it because, honestly, let's just be real, he was not going to stay there. So, good job, Pacers. I don't know why the Gordon Hayward trade blew my phone up as if KD got traded again or something, because that's how many notifications I got. If it were 2018, I would get it. But Gordon Hayward plays just as much as Ben Simmons does now. But all jokes aside, I would have liked for the Thunder to add more size rather than just Gordon Hayward, but they did need a legitimate veteran presence with this young team, and now they got it. For the Hornets, I would have liked the addition for Trey Mann more if they didn't already have 100 young guards on their team. But they got value for a player that they didn't need, so it is a win in my books. Feel free to pause the video right now and look at the 5 players on the screen that got traded. They don't deserve individual time because the trades were very insignificant, but let's talk about the biggest disappointments. The 5 teams you see on the screen right now are the 5 biggest disappointments in my eyes, not because they made bad trades, but because they didn't make trades at all. The Magic, you need 3-point shooting. You can't shoot the ball to save your lives, and you didn't add a 3-point shooter. Disappointed. The Lakers, your roster has been all over the world this year. You have been very inconsistent. I was disappointed you didn't make a trade, but realistically, you don't have anything to trade for, so I'm less disappointed in you than I am with the Warriors, because the Warriors, you had things to trade, you had value, you just didn't want to trade. I understand loyalty, but you're trash. You need to make a trade, and you didn't. So now the season's lost officially, unless you have a miraculous turnaround, which it looks that way right now, but don't be fooled. They started the season 6-2. They can easily go back to their losing ways. Then the Atlanta Hawks, I was expecting and hoping a DeJounte Murray trade. I'm not really mad you didn't trade him, but I was mad you didn't do anything to help yourselves out. And then lastly, the Portland Trail Blazers. I was just hoping Malcolm Brogdon and Jeremy Grant would get moved. Neither one of them were moved, so I'm a little disappointed there. And then there are a bunch of teams that just didn't make trades, but they didn't need to, so I'm not really disappointed in them. And yeah, that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this recap of the 2024 NBA trade deadline. I know it's pretty boring, but you know what? Not all of them can have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving getting traded. But let's hope for a great season. If you want to watch my latest edition of my weekly recap, click on this video right here. The Cleveland Cavaliers are not getting enough credit and are very, very scary. Have a good one. Bye. Also, 98% of y'all watching these videos are not subscribed to my channel. So if you enjoy the content and want to support me, please hit the subscribe button.